Tara.
So, we thought we would go live because we were having a really good conversation about jealousy.
Wasn't that fun? Talking about jealousy.
In preparation. Well, the reason we started was because we were talking about our masterclass, but also because you're like, oh, let's find Queen's song, Jealousy. Mm-hmm. And so we were listening to some of the words, and then what we realized was there's so many other jealousy songs out there. Someone actually has a jealousy playlist.
Yeah, actually there's several jealousy playlists, but yeah.
Because jealousy is such a prevalent thing.
It sure is.
Like, so we were having a conversation about the different types of jealousy, and you were asking, so let's just continue on in case people want to, like,
right.
You know,
so in that Queen song, he talks about his relation to jealousy,
mm-hmm.
right, and how it affects him, and his feeling, trapped by it, and when is it going to let him go, and all this. And at one point, he says something to the effect about his pride, right?
Yes.
And, it reflects on him. So it's almost like what my father once said to me when I told him that we're in an ethically open relationship, and he said, "Well, what does that mean? Like, she's able to cheat on you too?" And for him, I could imagine it was a question of his pride, his jealousy. Like, how could somebody be doing this to me? It's okay if I do it, but how could somebody do that to my possession, right? His pride was the thing. So then I asked you, well, what form of jealousy does your pride? Oh, what form of pride does your jealousy take? No. What kind of jealousy do you have? So, do you feel more affected by the emotional aspect of it, or the sexual, physical part of it? What's it like for you?
Yeah, exactly. So for me, well, because usually people have like either an emotion, they're concerned about someone getting emotionally attached, or they have a hard time with the sexual part.
Right.
So we were talking about that, and what was I saying? So let's just pretend that people are not listening.
But we were using an example of somebody that we know.
Yeah.
Two people that I was dating.
Yeah.
And one of them I had a strong emotional attachment to, and one of them I had a stronger physical attachment to.
Right.
And I was asking you, was it the physical or the sexual, the emotional or the physical sexual part that was most disturbing to you?
Yeah.
And your response was interesting because it seemed to reflect less about my involvement with them being emotional or sexual and how you perceive them to be. If you perceive them to be more successful, they would be more threatening in a sense, right? Yeah.
So the one person we were thinking of, I feel, is very. I think what is hard for me is that when I feel there's an area of me that's not enough, or where I'm lacking. So when I'm lacking, it's when I think about. Why are you pointing?
When you're laughing, yeah, go ahead.
Why are you pointing? So, and if there's an area where I feel that I'm lacking, and someone else is stronger, and I find that threatening, so that I feel more jealous. So in the instance of the person we're talking about, I feel that they're a better probably, maybe not true, a better sexual partner. I have this idea, or there's something about them that they're super cool, and I've said that before, and I don't always find myself to be a cool person.
Mm-hmm. So their confidence, their ability to be, would be something that you might compare yourself to and feel as though you're not measuring up. So that would create a feeling of
so I
insecurity.
feel jealous of that, rather than your connection with them. But having said that, I think that if you were emotionally more close to that person, and there was that thing where I felt like they have something that I don't, which I think is often what people are worried about, and obviously I am, then I think it might be I would find the emotional connection threatening. Because the other person we were talking about was someone you were seeing, and you did have a very strong emotional connection with them. In fact, you even went on a vacation with them. And as you two got closer, I think that did feel more threatening. So the emotional connection, not the sexual connection. So I think for me, I think it depends on the person. But then there's people like that you see that I don't even know. And do I find them threatening?
Well, that's an interesting idea. So then the more you get to know somebody, does it kind of take away from the fantasy that they might be all that? So does it help to kind of put your mind at ease if you know them? You're like, oh wow, maybe like they don't live up to all these fantastic fantasies. The unknown can lend itself to many possibilities, right? So does that become more threatening? Is it better to know the person? Does that help you demystify it, put it in its right size?
That's a good question. I think it depends. Because sometimes if you don't know someone, then they're not a threat. But then when you do know someone, they might not be a threat either because you know them. You know, and if they know you or if you're friends with them, this is why sometimes I think people feel like they have this rule. So that's something we're going to talk about on Monday, but like this rule that you can only date people that I've met and that I approve. You know what I mean? And so people have this idea that if they meet them, then that person, you know, then and you approve them, that they'll be more reliable, more trustworthy or whatever. So people do like to meet the people, you know, and some people don't even want to know.
Sure.
You know, I think I'm sort of like, I don't know. I think it totally depends on the person. I don't know. What do you think? How about you? What do you find the most threatening?
Yeah. Well, I think part of it's the unknown. So I'm great at fantasizing. So when you go out with somebody and haven't met them, it's a good opportunity for me to broadcast all these fantasies onto them, thinking that they're, you know, bigger, brighter, smarter, faster, whatever it is. But then once I meet them, maybe I begin to realize, well, you know what, they're pretty human also. And it kind of starts to put the fantasy in its right place. So I think I get to know the people and I feel less threatened by the ones.
But when you feel good in yourself, when you feel strong and that sort of thing, like I feel when I feel very good about myself and I'm working on self, that I always feel less jealous. Like I don't feel threatened.
No doubt. That's the direct correlation between security, self-esteem, and insecurity and low self-esteem.
Yeah. And then the other connection, I think that people, I was actually talking to my parents about this on the holidays, is attachment and how our attachment style impacts how we feel.
Absolutely.
Jealousy. If you have more secure attachment with your partners, then you won't feel jealous or you won't feel left out. And I think that's the other thing I think we hear about commonly too, is feeling left out. So for example, I went to an event last night of someone who I had dated before, and you know.
Whoa! You dated them before? I thought you only knew them.
I went on dates with them.
Dates, multiple dates now. Okay.
Yeah, but you were sort of like, you were giving me a bit of a hard time about it.
Wait a second. When did you date them?
Prior to the pandemic.
Prior, it was like 3 years ago?
I didn't date them, like seriously date them. We went on a few dates.
But wait a second, I'm trying to do the math because I think that they're probably about like 16 then, right?
They are not 16.
You're at 16.
Oh my God. But that, in that case, I kept at, like, I went by myself.
Yeah.
And so was that a case, because sometimes jealousy is FOMO too, right?
Yeah.
So how does your jealousy come up?
You know, absolutely. The FOMO sometimes comes up, but it wasn't last night. I thought that it would just be good if you had some time apart and I had some time apart, because for the last week we've been nesting together, right? So it's good to have our own things, give you a chance to do it. But the FOMO, you know, sometimes it's painful to sit there and think that there's things going on that you're not part of. But there's another aspect of my jealousy that because I am in a secure relationship, a secure attachment, I can endure the jealousy, and it actually, in a perverse way, makes me aware of my emotional investment. So if I didn't care, I'd be like, it doesn't matter, like go out and do what you want. But when I think about it and I'm a little bit alerted to my jealousy, then I'm like, wow, like maybe, you know, maybe you care. Like maybe it's like your emotional investment is there. But I'm able to have the pleasure of jealousy because I am secure in the knowledge. Well, you know what? One, you're probably going to come back to me. And two, if you don't, then you were really not mine when I thought you were, because you would have been there anyways. So it's really a win-win, because even if it would be a heartache in the beginning that you would leave, it would be better that you leave and do your thing that you're supposed to do because I love you and I want you to do that. And then I would be then given the opportunity to be with somebody who wants to be with me. So it's good in that sense.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Some people use jealousy as a temperature gauge for how much somebody cares for you.
Sure.
So if somebody isn't jealous, they might think that, because this is part of like the monogamy mindset, right? Is, you know, if someone's not jealous, then that means they don't care about me enough.
Or they ask themselves that, how come I'm not jealous? Maybe I don't care about this person. And
Yeah.
I don't think that's necessarily the case for me. But I have been in a situation like that. The first experience I've ever had in polyamory with a friend that I was seeing, we decided to go see a couple. It was my suggestion. I invited them and they said yes. We went to go see this couple and they really put airs on about it, that they were having the time of their life, and it was like, wow, like
Such
the
a
best
good
sex ever.
story.
And I got super jealous. So when we left their place and we were driving back, they turned to me and said, was that enough? Like, you got it out of your system now? And they used jealousy to their advantage, I guess, in a manipulative way. Not cool, but it was different. I was far less secure in that relationship. It was just not a very secure relationship, so the jealousy really spoke to me in a very uncomfortable way.
Right.
Today, I think I would have been able to feel much more secure because I feel secure in myself and in our relationship. I would have probably seen the humor in their offer.
Yeah. And I think jealousy can also be, sometimes people are like, oh, well, I'm so jealous, I shouldn't be jealous. But sometimes I think we should be jealous. There's reasons. Sometimes it's, our jealousy is actually a warning sign in some situations.
Oh, how so?
Well, you might be jealous of somebody's activities if they're going out all the time, they're not including you, they're doing things, you know what I mean?
But that sounds like neglect.
Well, it might be neglect, but you might think like, they may gaslight you and say, oh, you're just so jealous. Meanwhile, they're actually quietly quitting you or, doing all the other things,
But when I say neglect, I'm talking about neglect of self. So is that person not advocating for themselves and saying, I'm feeling left out, I'm feeling like I'm being gaslit, I'm feeling like I'm not getting what I'm wanting?
Yeah, they might be, but it also, if they have done that and they're not getting a response, or somebody keeps doing the same thing, then you have to kind of pay attention sometimes to your jealousy. It's not always that you have to get over it.
Right.
I think it's also can be a warning sign.
So a barometer to check in, are you getting what it is you're wanting and needing?
Yeah.
Are your needs being met?
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to talk about too is I was going to ask you the question about, often I think when people open up a relationship that was previously monogamous, they start by doing activities together. So swinging, that sort of thing, group sex, that sort of thing. And, once they get over the initial shock, which sometimes takes a while, they get used to it and, they're perfectly fine and maybe excited even about, seeing their partner having sex with other people. But then they may create a rule or a situation or an arrangement that's the only way that you interact with other people.
Is dating together.
Right. And then, I know I've talked to people before where things have come up and people then want to move into other things. Because sometimes, the group stuff's awesome. Like, we love it, and I love being with people together for sure. I love seeing you being with other people. It's very exciting. But I also enjoy having my own relationships too, and having that, because it's a different sort of like, it's a different thing when you're one-on-one with someone, and there's something about that. But I think people have a hard time transitioning into that because of the jealousy, because then you're doing things on your own and you're having those emotional attachments. So which do you find?
But it's interesting because yes, I can appreciate the idea that you go out and it would be an opportunity for me to say, what are they doing and are they having all this fun? Like, again, it opens up the unknown, which for me creates possibility. Whereas for some people, they are okay with it. It's like they might have like a don't ask, don't tell. Okay, I know the idea that you're going to go out, you're going to do this, but if I were to actually see you kiss another person or interact with another person, that could be the most threatening. So then they might actually prefer, well, you go to your dates, I don't want to see it. Like, I'm not into group play. We know somebody like that also.
Yeah.